Welcome to the Today Show Halton. I'm your host, Jay Stoyan, on this Monday afternoon. Wonderful day, wonderful life. We want to welcome Halton. We want to welcome Burlington. We want to welcome Canada and the USA. Again, I'm stepping in for Unstoppable Tracy today, who's our regular host, a fantastic lady who does a fantastic job. We have such a dynamic show today. I'm very excited today because the Disability Channel, I know we're all about abilities, but we also love about bridging the gap to, just every community, whether that's sports or entertainment. And today is all about music. We're really excited because we have a world-renowned drummer on the show today. We have a gentleman by the name of Dan Bodanis, and he's part of the Dan Bodanis Band, a wonderful jazz drummer. We're going to have him on. We're going to pick his brain. We're going to talk about his life experiences, and he also has a wonderful connection to our community, the ability community. So stay tuned. We're going to be back after this quick commercial break. You are watching our flagship show, the Today Show in Halton. I'm your host, Jay Stoyan. We'll be right back.
All about inclusion and really giving everyone a fair say.
Welcome to the Today Show. This is our flagship show. I am Unstoppable Tracy.
I am Zach Damon.
It is a pleasure to be here. I am excited. What is up?
We have a great show today.
Jay Stoyan here for the Disability Channel, the world's only inclusive channel for and by persons with disabilities.
Get ready to be inspired, everyone.
We have people watching from all over the world, but also all over Ontario.
We also take a concerted attention in the veterans community.
In moments of stress and trauma, we can get a hold of ourselves.
To help make a difference for people with disabilities, to show people how to love themselves or their disability.
I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys having me, giving this platform for myself and other people with disabilities.
Thank you so much, folks, for joining us for this episode of the Disability Channel Detroit. Please tune in next time.
Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Jay Stoyan. You're watching the Today Show in Halton, our flagship show where we showcase abilities, entertainment, information, education, and awareness. And right now, I want to welcome to the show, I want to welcome world-renowned jazz drummer, Dan Bodanis. Dan, thanks for being on the show today.
Jay, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate this. And, I'm a big fan of yours, and your family's amazing. Your dad, I've been a fan of because he's a legendary Toronto Marlies hockey defenseman from the 1950s. And so I'm a huge fan of the Stoyan family, in addition to being a fan of yours. So thank you.
Oh, thanks. I don't want to tell our viewers that we have our strong Macedonian connection. Dan's dad and our family musically inclined at the weddings. Yeah. So it's wonderful. And Dan is I know your family is such a pillar of the community. I know you live out in the Halton region, Mississauga, Peel. So this is great. So let's get right into it, Dan, and tell our viewers a nice tagline of your musical career, and then I can sort of pick your brain and we can go through your great career.
It's hard to encapsulate, but I'll start by saying the Toronto Musicians Association, which is we affectionately refer to as our musicians union. It's not a union, but they're a wonderful collective of people who really take care of setting kind of a context, if you will, from which professional musicians can operate. And then each professional musician is allowed to place into that context the content of what their musical offering is to the world. So the Dan Bodanis Band is a band that I formed many, many years ago. And we play primarily jazz. I had many, many successful years as a studio musician, playing at a Grant Avenue studio in Hamilton with Danny Lanois, who's now Danielle Lanois, and many other people. I played on the TV show Live It Up with Ed Roth out of Grant Avenue, and did many jingles and all kinds of recordings there. But the great thing about you mentioning the Macedonian connection, my father is now 94, and he's not really a Zoom guy or a TV guy these days, But if you were to talk to him, he'd tell you that he's probably the most beloved band leader in the Macedonian community. And his band works so often that if a bride and groom couldn't get his band for a Saturday or Sunday night at the venue that they wanted, they would actually move their wedding to a Friday night just to have my father's band. And I was lucky enough in 1971, when I was 12 years old, for my father to take me to the Toronto Musicians Association, our union, sign me up. And, you asked me for a tagline. Well, the Toronto Musicians Association just encapsulated my 50 years career as a professional musician by a beautiful letter, a Zoom call, and a pin acknowledging the fact that I indeed have been a professional drummer for 50 years, 50, which It doesn't feel like that because I don't even feel like I'm 50 years old.
Congratulations, Dan. Congratulations. That's quite the accomplishment. Wow. That's stellar. Now, let me ask you, because I'm just quoting, I think it's Jerry Doucette, who's jazz can play it when he's much older, right? So they can play jazz when they're. So tell me though, but jazz is like the hardest, like out of the genres as far as I hear, and like you got to be really established to play a jazz instrument or jazz, music, I guess. Tell me your take on it.
Well, what's interesting, having the father I did, I was so blessed. He is such a great musician, a great man who always hired the finest musicians and paid them the most money, treated them really respectfully, always made sure they were fed at each gig. But the ancillary benefit was he always got me the best drum teachers. And the first thing my dad said is, you've got to learn how to read music. And I actually learned how to read music before I could read and write the English language. And then very early in my career, I was turned on to big band music and jazz. My dad was is a saxophone player. Okay. And, so hearing him play all the time, he eventually started taking me to gigs. I was the band boy, which in today's parlance would be, I was the roadie. I'd help the musicians schlep their gear in and out of the gigs. I'd go get them drinks at the bar back when you could do this without having to have an age of majority card. I was 7, 8, 9 years old, going to every gig. And my dad would actually pay me to do this. But nice. the ancillary benefit of that was I learned jazz, I learned repertoire, and I got a chance to watch how professional musicians govern themselves on stage in terms of their professionalism. The fact that no matter what happened in their day prior to coming to the gig, they'd leave it off stage, get on stage, and be really, really professional. And we talked about the fact that you asked me about jazz, and jazz is one of those things where you never learn it all. And it's an evolving, continual, lifetime dedication to self-improvement. And for a drummer, what that specifically means is if you're playing the jazz ride cymbal pattern, which everybody knows is ding, 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 or in the hi-hat. If you're playing that, then what is your left hand going to do? What is your right foot going to do? What is your left foot going to do? And those things are what we call independence exercises, where you actually strive to have your hands and your feet operating independently so that they can have a conversation with them within themselves that serves and complements the music. And so if a piano player is playing a particular pattern, or a guitar player, or trumpet player, or sax player is playing a particular pattern, you want to be able to catch that pattern sometimes to complement them and maybe to take them in the direction they're going, or to inspire them musically to go in a different direction. And ideally, you want to have that ride cymbal pattern or hi-hat pattern play with, excuse me for this metaphor, musicians will fight me on this, but almost like a machine. It's a machine with feel, with good time and all the rest of it, but so that it doesn't change. It doesn't, it doesn't speed up or slow down. And you want to be able to play with your left hand and your feet completely independent of that ride cymbal pattern so that you can inspire and serve the music as best as possible. So jazz is an evolving lifetime dedication to study. Learning rock and Latin and everything else. I had a great drum teacher from Hungary. He was like the Buddy Rich.
Oh, yeah.
Considered one of the best drummers who ever lived, if not the best. And my teacher was like the Buddy Rich of Hungary. His name was Gabor Zekli. And Gabor always said to me, when other musicians hear you play rock, you want to leave them with the impression that that's the only thing that you're good at because you're so good at it. But then when you switch to Latin or jazz, you want them to think, oh, that's all he can play. He's such a great jazz drummer or such a great Latin drummer. That's all he can play. And he said, you want to have a mastery of every genre or every idiom musically. And so, in 50 years of playing professionally and, the 7 years of drum lessons leading up to that, from the time I was 5, there's a big math problem there for mathematicians to solve. I've probably had 35 years of drum lessons.
Well, let's hold that thought, Dan. Let's take a quick commercial break. And we're going to come back, and I want to ask you a little bit. I mean, there's so much more to ask you, but we're going to tie in a little bit the community with both of our relations. And but keep that thought, hold that thought. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with Today Show and drummer Dan Bodanis.
Hello world, it is Unstoppable Tracy with the Disability Channel inviting you to subscribe and watch live on Roku TV, on YouTube, on Restream, and also listen in Wisconsin Radio, Dave Stevens, all around the world. And on top of all of this, really proud to announce that we now also have a mobile app. So you can download for free, watch Roku TV for free, and the mobile app is free too from Google Drive. Be sure to download it and have it at your fingertips at all times. There's a job platform, and there's a live chat feature, and there's the TV feature with Roku TV, and there's also the social media channels. Take care, folks. Bye for now.
I'm Zach Damon, host of the Disability Channel Detroit. Please join us at the Disability Channel and watch the Disability Channel Detroit for all your Michigan disability information.
Welcome back to today's show. We're here with world-renowned jazz drummer Dan Bodanis from the Dan Bodanis Band. Now, Dan, you're a wealth of knowledge. I know we have lots of young drummers and musicians listening in. I wanted to ask you something. I wanted to get your take on this. I heard something very interesting from Jimmy Page. So, and I know you probably play a lot of times with vocals and without, right? So Jimmy Page said, when I first met Robert Plant and we just sort of connected right away, I kind of tuned my guitar to sound like his voice, almost to go hand in hand. Do you ever find out when you're drumming, if you have a real established singer in front of you, do you ever try to sort of blend, like almost sort of go hand in hand a little bit, or is it too hard for the drums?
Yeah. That's a really good question and a great observation. And Led Zeppelin is a great band to kind of model for how to serve the music. So as a drummer, you were always in service of the music. I teach my 15-year-old son, Sabian, who's an amazing drummer. I teach him lessons, and I always say, you know what? It's not important to play licks or to play over and over, or like repetitious patterns that make you look good or seem flashy. You're there to serve the music. And so I think what Page was saying was that he would serve the music in terms of complementing the vocalist to the best way possible. And so with the drums, that's the way it is. So for example, I'll give you a great example, coming somewhat from our community. We had the longest running jazz gig in Canadian history at a place called Azure. It's a restaurant in the Intercontinental Hotel at Front and Simcoe in Toronto. And we played 5 hours a night. And, we played a certain minimum number of days each week, but often the Metro Convention Center was attached to the hotel. So often they would have these long conventions. And so my band would play 5 hours a night, 7 nights a week. And, just play. So there was always celebrities coming in and out. I think, we talked about the fact that Eric Braeden, superstar from The Young and the Restless, Victor Newman, he came in many times, and he became a very kind friend, great supporter of the band. I'll share a story about him leading a standing ovation in a moment. But the one person that came up on stage to sing with my band was the great Olympia Dukakis.
Wow.
And I said to Olympia, I was really being really cheeky with her. You know, she's Greek and I'm Macedonian. And I said, you know, I said, so great that, you know, you brought so much fame to the Southern Macedonian community. And oh, she gave me a slap in the face. She pinched my cheek. She said, I love you. And she's, you know, there's Olympia Dukakis, this, you know, amazing lady, just being so accepting of my cheekiness and just fun I was having. She got it. She said, Dan, I want to sing Miserlou with your band. I said, okay, how about this? We'll do like a Middle Eastern kind of, you know, almost like a belly dancing kind of a vibe. Not like the version of Miserlou in the movie Pulp Fiction. She says, no, forget about that. She says, and you know what the belly dancing thing? Yeah, you go to every Greek wedding. That's how they always play it. I said, you don't want it like that? She says, no. She said, you know what? So just follow me. I said, well, you got to give me some more structure than that, Olympia. So she goes, I don't want any beat, not a steady beat. I said, okay, so we'll do it rubato. She said, what does that mean? I said, rubato means without rhythmic accompaniment, but I'm going to make some noise in the background, you know, some cymbal swells, some tom-tom swells. She goes, perfect. That's perfect. So Olympia came up on stage with my band, no rehearsal, and she sang it, and she lifted the place. I mean, she got a standing ovation, and somebody recorded it, which I'd love to, because I actually saw the recording, and I heard the recording. I have pictures. It's on my Facebook page. But I'd love to have that recording because I never did get that. And after, she was so cool. She said, Dan, post it on Facebook, get the video out there. It'll help promote your band. She was amazing. So, you know, in terms of what Jamie Page was saying and vocalists and musically, we're all there to support the main voice of the music or the song itself.
That is, Dan, you are a wealth of knowledge. Like, I love hearing stories. It's almost like behind the scenes stories, right? Like, how did you get there? Tell me your downfalls. Oh, I remember, you know, I overcame this. And then it's all about sharing the success. So there's so many more things to talk about. Let's kind of move ahead. Can you share with me maybe, well, obviously a couple inspirations in your life. Your first one obviously would be your dad. So let's, you know, obviously your dad's probably your number one inspiration when it comes to music. Is there another one? And share maybe a Toronto story with a fellow musician who you might think a lot of Torontonians would know of, like a positive story if you have. So inspiration besides your dad, obviously, and then maybe a Toronto story with a fellow famous musician like yourself.
Oh, there's so many to draw from. Probably one of the most impactful stories I could tell is the fact that when I first met my wife-to-be, she's now been my wife for almost 36 years. Her name is Kelly. And when I first met Kelly, I saw her. I thought, man, she's the most beautiful woman I've ever seen in my life. I'm going to marry her. And I was playing at the Constellation Hotel backing up Vic Franklin. And Vic Franklin was an internationally renowned person. He had the Vic Franklin show. And at the time, that was a big show. He used to have people like Engelbert Humperdinck, Tom Jones, Diana Ross, the Supremes, Last Night in the Pips. He had all those types of people on his show. And so I was lucky enough to be in his band. And when my wife walked in, first of all, we had dancing girls on the, dancers on the show, backing up Vic. And they both sang and they danced like a Vegas style show.
Yeah.
And so one night there was nobody in the club except my student, a Greek boy named Fotis. And he came in to watch me play. And we're playing the first set, which was just quiet bossa novas, quiet background jazz. We played from 9 to 9:30, half-hour break, and then 10 o'clock, bang, lights, and it's a big production, Vegas style, Broadway show with Vic Franklin singing, and he was fantastic. He was like Canada's Frank Sinatra. So only Fotis was in the club. It was called the Woodbine Inn at the Constellation Hotel. Some people may remember that.
Mm-hmm.
And when Kelly walked in across the back of the club, this tall, beautiful blonde dancer in a miniskirt, legs for days, excuse me for being so descriptive, but I'm just telling you how it was back then, 1983. I went, I'm going to marry her. And so Fotis signaled to me, and he's going like this with his hand, like, do you see her? And I'm going, yeah, I saw her. So when the set was over at 9:30, I walked up to Fotis and I said, what'd you think? He goes, did you see that girl? I said, yeah, I told you I saw her. I'm going to marry her. He goes, no. I said, oh, yeah. So I get up and I start walking towards her, and I didn't know her. And Fotis grabbed my arm. He goes, where are you going? I said, I'm going to go walk. I'm going to go meet that girl. I'm going to ask her to marry me. He goes, are you kidding me? And he's pulling me down into the chair.
How great is
And
that?
so I sit back down because he's literally pulling me. I said, Bodanis, I'm just going to go. He starts sweating. He's getting nervous for me. For some reason, I wasn't nervous. I don't know. I don't know what I was, but it's just one of those things where I knew. And so then he said, swear to God, you didn't know that girl? You don't know that girl at all? You've never seen her before? I said, Bodanis, the answer is no to all those questions, but I'm going to ask her to marry me. So I got up and I walked over to and sat down with Kelly and asked her to marry me. She didn't say a word to me. And just moments after the question came out of my mouth, all the dancing girls in our show, sorry, that's what we used to call them. I apologize. Yeah. All the dancers in our show came up, Kelly, Kelly, Kelly. She stood up, didn't say a word to me, hugged them, and disappeared into their dressing room. I go back to Bodanis' table. He's soaking wet with sweat. He's so nervous for me. There's big sweat stains under his arm. He's wiping his face with the napkin. He's pouring sweat. And he goes, what happened? I go, nothing. Did you talk to her? Well, I asked her to marry me, but she didn't say anything. What do you mean you asked her to marry you? You were kidding, right? I said, no, I really did ask her to marry me.
Wow, look at that.
So then I found out 2 weeks later that Kelly was a dancer and an amazing singer. And so within 6 months, within a few weeks we were dating. Within 6 months we were engaged. 2 years later we got married. But here's the thing I didn't input. Kelly is an amazing singer, an amazing dancer. She's what they call a triple threat. So sing, dance, and act. And she was a former Miss Dance of Canada in 1981, the very first Miss Dance of Canada.
Wow.
So she's what they call a triple threat. And, in terms of inspirations, my wife would come on to a gig with my dad and she would sing the daylights out of whatever song she had to sing, whatever the popular pop tunes were of that day at somebody's wedding. And then when she was doing shows, she was doing big shows like Evita. She did Crazy for You at the Royal Alex. So Kelly auditioned for Crazy for You. And it's a show. It was a fantastic show. It was a Gershwin musical out of New York. And so the Broadway producer came up to Toronto, handpicked the cast. And Kelly was picked because she was the only dancer in the world at that time that could do tap dancing on point. Now, ballerinas would know that point dancing is where you dance on your toes. It's very difficult, very strenuous. But the other side of it is Kelly could actually tap dance while on point. And she had to do it on a table that was 4 feet high. And she's on a stage at the Royal Alex Theater doing this every single night. And they did this show for 3 years, 8 shows a week, like 2 matinees a week. And over 1 million people saw my wife in the show Crazy for You. And it's a show about 8 beautiful women dancing and singing, and my wife was one of those 8 women who. And so you asked me about people who inspire me, people who do amazing things. My wife would be very, very high up on my list as the most inspirational person I know.
That's a great story. Thank you so much for sharing that, Dan. We're going to take a quick break, and then I want to come back and I want to tie in, because I know you played all over Toronto, Canada, the world, the USA. Maybe tie in a little bit of the Halton connection, and then we want to talk a little bit family. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back with Dan Bodanis and the Dan Bodanis Band. You're watching the Today Show Halton. I'm Jay Stoyan, and we'll be right back.
All about inclusion and really giving everyone a fair say.
Welcome to the Today Show. This is our flagship show. I am Unstoppable Tracy.
I am Zach Damon.
It is a pleasure to be here. I am excited. What is up?
We have a great show today.
Jay Stoyan here for the Disability Channel, the world's only inclusive channel for and by persons with disabilities.
Get ready to be inspired, everyone.
We have people watching from all over the world, but also all over Ontario.
We also take a concerted attention in the veterans community.
In moments of stress and trauma, we can get a hold of ourselves.
To help make a difference for people with disabilities, to show people how to love themselves or their disability.
I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys having me, giving this platform for myself and other people with disabilities.
Thank you so much, folks, for joining us for this episode of the Disability Channel Detroit. Please tune in next time.
Welcome back to the Today Show. We're here with Dan Bodanis. We're going to finish up the last segment. What I want to do, Dan, is I want to tie in your Halton experience. I know you've been playing out in Peel, Mississauga, Burlington, Hamilton. So tell us a little about your connection to Oakville, and then we want to talk a little bit about family.
Well, Oakville has had a fantastic jazz festival for many, many years. And a dear friend, Joe Diodati, who used to run Jonathan Quinn's Menswear in Air Mills Town Center, and then it was right downtown Oakville on Lakeshore there, just east of Trafalgar. Joe became the director of the Oakville Jazz Festival, and he'd been making the suits for me and for my band for many years, for a lot of NHL guys, hockey players, and I think he probably did Don Cherry stuff for a little bit. Anyways, the point is that Joe booked my band to play the Oakville Jazz Festival. And, you know, it's always wonderful when you get tapped to play a major festival like that. But here's the great thing that came out of it. You know, there's so much talent that people don't know about or don't see. And it's not in their everyday awareness. So it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. But here I am doing we just finished doing a sound check with my band. And at the time, had a number of world-class musicians, but specific to Oakville, Russ Little, arguably the greatest trombone player that's ever lived, played in my band at that time, and he was a featured soloist in that show. So there's the Oakville connection right there. We finished doing the sound check. We played this great Chick Corea tune called God Match, and I tell the guys, okay, we're going to go back on in about 10 minutes to open up the show. And I hear, Dad! And I see this guy from far away, and he's waving at me. He's coming towards the stage, and I don't recognize him. But something in the back of my mind says, this guy knows me. So I walk up to him, and he goes, Dan, I'm Rick Brown. Rick Brown. And the name, I felt bad, but it didn't really ring a bell at the time. And I'm an honest person. I said, Rick, I'm sorry, I can't place you. He said, when you had your band, Bodanis, at the CNE, in the Canada Dry Dance tent, playing every day back in 1978, I was there every day to see you. And then it clicked, and I went, oh my God, Rick, yes, of course. And Rick's a great guitar player. He's an amazing graphic artist. He's got his own company. I think he's working for another company now. He's got two sons who are great, a wonderful wife. And I'll tell you, his son, Zach Brown, just as an aside, watch out for this kid. If he's not in the NHL in a few years, I'd be very surprised.
I thought Zach Brown, the musician. I was going to say Zach Brown.
No,
I know him.
Zach Brown, the goalie. This kid's
okay.
But anyways, so here I am at the Oakville Jazz Festival, reconnecting with a dear friend after almost 40 years of not seeing him. And we rekindled our friendship ever since. And, my dear friend Brian Crombie has a great radio show, the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. And Brian had us on about a year ago, both of us, Rick and I. And so, there's a great talent in Oakville, guitar player, probably one of the best dads ever, and so Oakville's such a wonderful community. In that jazz festival, I just had such a positive experience playing that. And then it was one point at the first set, I turned around because we were absolutely surrounded. There were so many people there. And there was probably 25 drummers standing right behind me. And I knew most of them. So It was fun just to reconnect with all my friends from the drum community. And they came from all over to hear my band play and to hear Russ Little play. So, so my connection to Halton and Oakville is very positive.
So let's finish it off with a nice positive family segment. And Dan, please tell us how your family was touched by our community, the Ability community, and let us know how we can further support your family. But yeah, please, if you will, share your own experience, if you would.
Well, so I was telling you about my wife, Kelly, as being probably the most inspirational person I've ever met. And Kelly had a wonderful career, I say had, as a singer, dancer, model, and actress. And not only was she doing Crazy for You and major shows where she was, a very like a highly featured performer. But, you know, she was doing work for the Canadian Armed Forces, where they would send her to Alert or to the Middle East, and she would entertain the troops. Tens of thousands of troops would come to hear Kelly sing, watch her dance, the whole thing, like the Bob Hope USO type shows, but it was done through the Canadian military. Yeah. So my wife's she literally is an internationally acknowledged person. Plus she's been in major movies and TV shows. She was the lead stunt woman on the Gene Roddenberry series Earth Final Conflict, and for 5 years. And so my wife was hit by cars. She was stabbed in knife fights. She was blown up. All the stunts that a stunt woman would do. I mean, she has no fear. I have all the fear. And I have to say, the only complaint I have about my wife is she made me prematurely gray, because every time she'd go to work, I'd be worried that she'd get hurt.
I'm sure.
The point is when our first son was born, Sabian, who's now 6'1", you know, AAA type hockey player, great drummer, you know, honor student at his high school. When he was born, Kelly said, you know what? I'd like to bring up our kids, and so I'm going to retire from working. Okay, great. 4 years later, we were blessed with another amazing little life, and his name is Sebastian. And Sebastian, as a blessing, came to us as like we were a chosen family. That's the only way you can put it. He came to us with severe Down syndrome. He has autism. He has brain damage from what was supposed to be fatal epilepsy. It was called infantile spasms. And twice he went to the brink where they told us he might not live throughout the day. And the amazing team, because it is a team, at the infant neurology unit at McMaster Sick Kids Hospital saved his life twice. And the second time, they actually took him to a point where they had to shut down his immune system, zap his brain with very powerful steroids, with the hope, like literally a 1% chance of saving his life, 1%, with the hope that it would A, save his life, B, take the fatal epilepsy, the infantile spasms, from fatal down to grand mal seizures, which could be medicated, and that would not, you know, shorten his lifespan. So that was kind of the best case scenario with a 1% chance of survival. And what happened was they put the pressure on Kelly to wean him off the medication he was on. It was a trial experimental thing, and he had to come off. It was supposed to be 2 weeks. He ended up being on for 6 weeks, and they said, we have to stop it in this man, your son's life. So they said, well, we got this theoretical thing we've bandied about where if we shut down his immune system, zap his brain full of steroids, we think we can, you know, maybe reduce the potency of the infantile spasms to just grand mal seizures. Okay, fine, let's try it. Kelly had to wean him off. Oh, by the way, I should say, at the time when we had to do this, McMaster Sick Kids had a C. difficile breakout. So we had to do this at home. Wow. And they threw teams of people at us, because McMaster's a teaching hospital. What do you call it? Psychologists, social workers. There was all kinds of community help. Then the doctors and the nurses coming in. But Kelly had to wean him off the existing experimental drug and introduce the new drug, the steroids, and while we're shutting down his immune system. And somehow, to the letter of the law, like with military precision, perfect clockwork, Kelly did it all. And Sebastian came back to us because he was pretty much gone. And he came back with, you know, significant brain damage because he was beginning to talk. He was saying, "Mama, Dad." That's all gone. His feet gone. Doesn't walk. But the point is he came back to us. He started smiling again. And over time, with lots of the brain x-rays, I forget what they're called right now, but with lots of brain scans and what have you, they saw that there was absolutely no seizure activity. So they cured the infantile spasms. Wow. And I talked to Dr. Gabriel Ronan, the man who led this team, the infant neurology unit. And he said, Dan, in my career, I've seen two miracles, and your son's one of them. Just the fact that not only has he been cured and he survived, but the fact that we can't find any evidence of any epilepsy. So we're grateful. And, you know, along the way, having a son with Down syndrome is not so bad in terms of what others have to deal with. You know, when you look at things you step back, you say, okay, here's our situation. We're blessed because Kelly just dedicates her entire life to our children and to our keeping a great family home. Sebastian's on a schedule, and boy, she's very strict with, making sure he's fed at the same time. Little simple things like being toilet trained. We don't know if that's ever going to happen. But in the meantime, Sebastian doesn't go with a soiled diaper for much more than a few seconds at any point in the day. She's nonstop, 24/7, full-time caregiver. And, I talked about Kelly inspiring me as a vocalist and as a great performer. As a mom, there's no words. She's that amazing.
Well, Dan, thank you so much for sharing, because I know, it's tough, right? So I really appreciate you sharing your love, your kindness, the way you take care of your family, and you're such a pillar in the musician community. I know so many people that we know each other, and so I want to thank you. What I want to do actually is we're going to do a special little segment after the show, and we're going to show Dan in action, because we're gonna do some fancy editing, and we're gonna show Dan and his band, right? And his band, thrilling the audience. So Dan, before I let you go, if people want to find out more information regarding yourself and your band or anything, is there anywhere where they could check you out, LinkedIn or something like that?
Well, I'll tell you right now. First of all, that's my dog barking in the background. And she's making me feel terribly guilty that I haven't mentioned Shiloh, our Australian Shepherd. So she's got her due props now on TV. Thank you, Jay. In terms of the band, it's been interesting with COVID. We've had to rethink a lot of things. And so our approach coming into the new year, and called the new year, meaning a new era of music, live music coming back. I'm of the belief that history always repeats itself. And being a student of history, the Roaring 20s, the 1920s, was the greatest period greatest period for live music. Bands on every corner, bands in every hotel, bands in every bar, at every event. And I think we're coming back into that. So my band is gearing up for that. And on top of that, because my band goes out as a trio up to a 7-piece band. Sometimes we work just instrumentally. Sometimes we do work with a vocalist. We've got a great band. And when I say great band, I mean great people who are world-class musicians. And I'm lucky to share a stage with these people. And, on top of that, I've been recently inspired over the last couple of years to start up my own 18-piece big band. And what inspired me was the music of Frank Sinatra at the Sands with the Count Basie Orchestra under the musical direction of Quincy Jones. So I got in touch with the people who have the rights to the Frank Sinatra estate and that music, and I bought those 18-piece arrangements and paid all the rights, the royalties, and everything else. And so I've put together a big band. It's handpicked with people that I want to share Chinese food with. Like not just the fact that they're great musicians, but I want to go to a great Chinese restaurant like Summit Garden or another one that's local, and be able to share food with them, and then also to be able to go play at the same place. And here's the thing, to be able to play with 18 musicians right now, it's just not safe to put everybody in a room together. Yeah. I've had my double vaccination, if you will. I'm not afraid to say that. I encourage everybody to go in that direction. But the point is that watch out for the Dan Bodanis Big Band. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, we're going to have to keep an eye on. I think what we're going to do, I can hear a production there. So I think we're going to bring our music show out when you have your gig. And I think we'll team up and do some production. So, Dan, we really thank you for being on the show today. Again, we had on the show today world-renowned drummer Dan Bodanis from the Dan Bodanis Band. If you want to check him out, I'm sure he's all over the web. You can do that, Dan. We really thank you for being on today. What we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break, and I'm going to come up and wrap the show. So I want to thank Dan and all his fans for watching. I want to thank the viewers. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with the Today Show. I'm Jay Stoyan.
Thanks, Jay.
Thanks, Dan.
Would you like to donate to our employment programs? Please follow the link below to donate through PayPal. All proceeds go to our programs.
Hi, my name is Julia Ramaldi. Please come join us on the Disability Channel. Please stay tuned. We have amazing guests.
Welcome back to the Today Show. I'm your host, Jay Stoyan. We had a wonderful show. We connected our community along with the music community. We had on drummer, world-renowned Dan Bodanis. You can see that clip later on. Before I do go, I do want to say who's going to be coming up on the show. We have on from Nouveau Network, Sean Sawyer. We also have Burlington Councillor Paul Sharman. He's going to be coming on. Do check out our website, www.thedisabilitychannel.ca. Do subscribe to our newsletter as we're growing. Watch our veteran show. We're down now in the USA, and we were just at the Texas Rangers Stadium with our sports reporter, Dave Stevens. He was playing in the Major League Baseball softball celebrity tournament along with the veteran celebrity ball game. So we're going to be showing some really dynamic interviews showcasing celebrities all the way from the NFL, Major League Baseball, Hollywood, and who else, you know, what you're going to see out there. So again, I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. We'll be back next time. I'm Jay Stoyan. You're watching the Today Show Halton.